The Moody family are the aristocrats of Galveston, Texas, and hold a significant place into Texas history. Their mansion is also the most iconic historic home on Galveston Island. Everyone on Galveston Island knows the Moody name, but why? What did the Moody family do that makes them so important? In the book, The Moodys of Galveston and Their Mansion, written by Henry Wincheck, he states, "In the roster of American entrepreneurs, there are few families whose talent for empire building exceeds that of the Moodys of Galveston."
W.L. Moody was a young man who grew up in Virginia and got a law degree and moved to Texas in the 1850s. He settled in Fairfield, Texas, and started a small law practice, and then he joined the Confederate Army and fought in the Civil War. He was captured and injured and decorated for his valor during the war, but he escaped. I mean, he got out of the Army in good shape. He came back, but he was not all that happy with where the activity had gone, where the Civil War had gone. Obviously, they lost the war, but he also just was disillusioned with life in the military. So he moved to Galveston. He had one son at that time, a year old, W.L. Moody Jr., and he and his wife, Farabee, moved to Texas, moved to Galveston, and there they set up a cotton trading company. They would buy cotton from farmers from the rest of Texas, sell it, ship it, and that's what they did as their main business. He was one of the founders of the Galveston Cotton Exchange, which was what all the traders who traded in cotton based their price of a bale of cotton on back in those days, back in the late 1800s. So he was making his money off of cotton.
Not only did Mr. Moody own a cotton business, but he also owned a mercantile in Galveston named the Moody and Company. This picture shows how the building initially looked before the 1900 storm. This is how the building looks today, minus the fourth floor that detached during the 1900 storm.
So he was one of the driving forces behind the deepening of the water of the port. So he developed the port. And then he decided we need a railroad to get some of that cotton into Galveston and get the people back and forth from Galveston. And so they established the railroad, the Gulf Colorado and Santa Fe Railroad. And that took commerce up into the heartlands of Texas. And then he decided we really ought to have a bank to take the money and give the money. You know, when a farmer comes into town, he may need to get a loan for his seed and his provisions for the coming year, and to sell his cotton and put the money in the bank. So they established a bank. That farming operation during a bad times, and so they established an insurance company. That was the originator. He didn't establish that idea, but that was an original kind of vertical integration. You know, you have a product, you want to sell it, so you build a railroad, and then you build a bank, and then you build an insurance company, and you have control over all these operations. And his son came along, W.L. Jr., and he expanded on that idea, the banking and insurance industry into the 20th century. By the time he died, there were 50 or more corporations, companies, that he and the other Moody family members operated in Texas, out of Galveston. So 50 different companies.
In 1900, William Moody Jr. and his wife Libby purchased what we know today as the Moody Mansion. It was one of the few structures to withstand the 1900 storm. The Moody family called this mansion their home for 86 years before the house was turned into a museum at the request of Mary Moody, the daughter of William Moody Jr. and Libby Moody. The American National Insurance Company, also known as Anaco, was built in 1913. A new building, Anaco, was built in 1971. It was known as Galveston skyscraper and the tallest building on Galveston Island for 37 years until a condominium was built exceeding the height of the Anaco building. In 1954, Mary Moody, the daughter of William Moody, Jr., inherited the 50 businesses her father owned when he passed away. Mary Moody is responsible for dedicating her childhood home, the Moody Mansion, to becoming a public museum. In the book titled Galveston, written by Ray Miller, he talks about the Moody Foundation in 1954. He states it was reported at the time to be the third richest foundation in the country. Only the Rockefeller and Ford foundations were believed to be bigger. Each Moody has done something phenomenal for society. Mary Moody's legacy was her social work among the youth of Galveston. Mary Moody donated millions of dollars to schools and colleges. She also set up a scholarship fund for Galveston's private and public high school students, which the Moody Northern Endowment now operates. Several universities have dedicated a building in her name to show appreciation for her donations. Many businesses and buildings created by the Moodys are still in operation today on Galveston Island. Some of these businesses are the Moody Methodist Church, the Moody National Bank, the Buccaneer Hotel, which is now the Meridian Senior Citizen Retirement Home, the Moody Gardens and the Moody Gardens Hotel, the Santa Fe Railroad Station, now called Galveston's Railroad Museum, the Moody Compress and Warehouse, the Moody Early Learning Childhood Center. The Moody family is a very prominent family on Galveston Island. The name is very well known throughout the island. And now you can know about them too.